Being a government department, the CMS, which is part of the Department for Work and Pensions, has appointed an independent examiner, okay? And their job is to look at the DWP and check that they're doing their job properly. And the way to do that is by looking at complaints, resolving complaints, okay, and directing the Department of Work and Pensions and the CMS to get things right. Now, the independent complaints examiner kind of works for you in making sure that the CMS follows its own procedures. So let me give you an example. Let's just say you submit a court order to the CMS and it doesn't result in a change of care. The CMS is supposed to follow court orders. So let's just say you then submit it again and again and again. And eventually the matter is resolved. Kind of. It takes 6 months, might take 12 months. They might not backdate. There might be a problem. So you'll go through the mandatory reconsideration process and be offered the chance, if you're unhappy, to take it to ICE. Why would you take it to ICE? Well, ICE has the ability to pay you back compensation, okay? Little, small amounts, not big amounts, just little amounts, okay? Little amounts that are token gestures towards the inconvenience you suffered. So in the case of the court order example I've just referred to, ICE may look at it and write a report and say, well, the court order was sent on this day and therefore CMS should have updated the case within X number of weeks, but it didn't, okay? And for that, you may get £25. Obviously, if this happens 2 or 3 times, the chances are that all those incidences will be recorded and you might get several amounts of £25, okay? So we're not talking big amounts of money, but we are talking small gestures. I've had probably about £200 off of ICE. I'm not sure if that was it was in one thing. I did about £200. It's okay to take the money, okay? You will have to, they will send you a letter that will say the CMS have been directed to pay you token gestures for compensation. Please phone this number and they provide your bank details. It is okay to provide your bank details. If you don't provide your bank details, you won't get the money, okay? Like most other government departments, they don't send checks out. They make payments directly to your bank account. So if you don't want the money, drop me a message, okay? And I'll gladly send you my bank details and you can pay it to me instead. And I will thank you very much for that. No, but on a serious point, just actually give the CMS your bank details in order for them to pay you your compensation. Now, it may sound great, but the thing is, with the independence complaints examiner, as you can imagine, for your own dealings with the CMS, whether you're a paying parent or a receiving parent, quite often it's taken a long time to get things done. Typically at the moment, submit a change, it's 3 to 6 months. My ex-wife submitted a change last September. I got the paperwork through literally two weeks ago. So that's taken a good 6 months, okay? She didn't like the decision, by the way, and of course that's gone to mandatory reconsideration. But 6 months to deal with something is totally unacceptable in my book, okay? Especially if it involves payments where you shouldn't be paying. So why are you paying? Okay, you're paying because the CMS is telling you to pay. And the trouble is, if you don't pay what they tell you to pay, they take enforcement action. So that's not good. Okay, but just going back to the independent complaints examiner, okay, they will look at issues. So for example, I remember in one of my issues, CMS had records of shared care. Okay, they had records from both parties that agreed what the shared care was. They didn't grant it, they didn't listen to those, they chose a different amount, okay? There was another time when I was sending them details of my pension, they didn't apply it, they didn't give me the discount, they didn't tell me, and the first time I did it, it was the wrong tax year, because I didn't know, like most people, you don't think that you have to upload previous tax years, you think, well, I'm paying my pension now, here's my contributions, okay? And that's not the case, and I learned that through through sending my stuff in and eventually it going to complaint. So as I say, I got awarded small amounts of money for that, £25, £25, £50 here, added up to around about £200. Now, ICE isn't quick, okay? And ICE isn't the be-all and end-all. Don't think, for example, that you can send an email to ICE and say, if you don't deal with this, this is a full and final settlement, I'm going to take you to ICE. It doesn't work like that, okay? You have to fill in a form, you have to send it across to ICE. ICE then look at the details. You may have, say, 20 different complaints. ICE will look at the details and they will, from there, they will narrow it down, okay? So certain things they can look at, other things they can't. They will then get the evidence from the child maintenance service, okay? And they will look at the case. Now, what actually happens is there's a little bit of back and forth here. You may speak to someone, they may talk you through your complaint, and as I say, from there you may submit 20 different complaints, but they might agree that 5 of them ICE will look at. ICE get the information, and then they write a report. The independent complaints examiner reads it, makes a decision, and if it's in your favour, you'll probably get small amounts of money as previously detailed, or you'll get told this isn't the case. In my particular case, I say a couple of issues. They went through the complete history, comments such as, I wrote on this date, I wrote on that date, they didn't respond on this date, they did this, they did that, they failed to do this, they failed to tell me, etc, etc, etc. Okay, this takes time, as you can imagine, okay? And you cannot wait for ICE to deal with stuff whilst you've got other things ongoing with the CMS, okay? Because typically, okay, when I submitted mine, it took 2 years, okay? It was 2 years before they wrote back to me with all the stuff, okay? And I would say as a timeline, if you were making a complaint today, expect a similar response. Somewhere between 18 months and 2.5 years, they will get back to you. They gave me progress updates. They said, yeah, we are now dealing with cases from January, we're now dealing with cases from February and so forth. And eventually you could see that there was progress being made, and then they looked at my case and granted my award and told the CMS what to do, okay? So just as a reminder, when you make a complaint, if you're not happy with the answer, you do the mandatory reconsideration process, and if you're not happy with that, you'll normally get a letter that says if you're dissatisfied, you can go to ICE. You can also obviously go to Tribunal. Again, Tribunal is a court process as opposed to a complaints examiner looking at it, and you probably use both instruments at the same time. So you can submit something to Tribunal, okay, and whilst that's going through to Tribunal, you can complain to CMS that actually the procedures aren't being followed, so you then take it to ICE. ICE look at the procedures. So it's important to note that ICE are looking at procedures, they're looking to see whether the CMS have done what their manuals say, okay? So they will look at the decision maker guidance and check against that. And if CMS are complying with their own policies, you won't get an award. If their service is tardy, you might do. So a good example there is I've had 1 or 2 cases where the individual I've been speaking to on the telephone has put the phone down on me, okay? And of course, I raised that and they will go get that call. They hold call, CMS held call details for up to 14 months. They will play back their call. And if they believe that that call is not of the right service standard and it was inappropriate for that call handler to hang up on you, you may get a small lump sum. As I say, typically round about £25, okay? So, there you have it. If you speak to the CMS, if you're speaking politely, if they're not helping you, if they eventually put the call down on you, okay, and they don't tell you why they're putting the call down to you, you've got grounds for complaint there as well. And I would certainly follow that up, okay? It's unacceptable that when you hold on to the line, and I've waited for over 2 hours before, okay, to speak to someone who decides to hang up on you, probably because it's time for their tea break, it's time for them to go, okay? Really unacceptable that. So make a complaint. But obviously, don't be rude. Okay, if you if you're rude to someone on a telephone call, then to be honest, they will probably put the phone call on you, and you complain as much as you like. They're probably not going to give you say sorry for putting the call down on you. Okay, so that was a quick thing about ICE, as say. Appointed by the government, looks at CMS cases and other DWP cases. They produce an annual report which you can see online, where they will tell you about some of the cases. You can read about it, some of the cases they investigate. You can read about some of their findings. Okay, and I think that's quite a useful thing to start off with. If you read their report, you get some idea of the matters that they deal with, okay, and you'll get some idea about the thinking behind their decisions. And if you understand that, then when you make your complaint to ICE and you put it in writing, you know how to structure your complaint, okay. Now, just a little thing about complaints, I often recommend to you that if you're making a complaint to the CMS, you make individual complaints rather than multiple complaints. And that is because my understanding is certain staff often deal with certain matters. Not everyone can deal with all aspects of your complaint. So if you have an issue, for example, about pension contributions and an issue about shared care, write two separate complaints, okay? And you can submit complaints via the portal, okay? You basically create a PDF document and upload the PDF document. But when you're making these complaints, make them as individual complaints where it's easier for you to track. And also it means that when the CMS get the complaint, they can send the complaint to two different people to deal with, okay? And things get resolved probably quicker. And of course, if the complaint is simple, straight to the point, with documentary evidence, it will make life easier. So try and keep your letters short. Don't send too many. Okay, don't make them 15 paragraphs when you can summarise into maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. Okay, and when you send them to the CMS, my suggestion to you is that you send the complaint via the portal. Now, I understand not everyone agrees with me on that. Okay, a lot of people will say to you, send a letter recorded, okay, to the CMS. Now, I have a slight issue with that because when you send a letter recorded, first of all, you're paying for that stamp, you're paying to send that letter, but you're not actually sending it directly to the Child Maintenance Service. You're sending it to their mail handlers who open the letters, scan it into their system, okay, and eventually it hits your CMS account. Well, if you can just upload from your phone as a PDF, as a photograph, or you can scan it from your computer and send it straight to your account, you bypass the mail handling centre. And obviously, with any document, the more people that are involved in the process, the greater the chance of the document getting lost. So I always recommend you upload to the portal. That said, I've had a problem before where I've sent documents to the portal. I've rung up the CMS and they take my call, usually after half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Okay, and they've said they've received the documents, but they've come up blank. Okay, I don't know why it's happened to me once or twice. Might be something to do with PDF software, some sort of compatibility issue. But I have sent documents to the CMS and they've arrived there as blank pages. And it's not a case of me putting them in the scanner the wrong way round. They simply have arrived there and there's been an issue. So again, it might be to do with PDF formats and different types of software. Okay, but you can check on that. If you send the document and you've got time, send the document, ring the CMS, put them on hands-free, and ask them if they've got your document. Just a little tip: it will take somewhere between say 15 and 30 minutes for that document you send on the portal for the person you're speaking to on the telephone for them to be able to see it. It's not instant. So please allow a little bit of time, okay? And typically, if you're ringing the CMS for one or two reasons, obviously, if you ring them up and they answer the call in the first couple of 5 minutes, deal with all your other issues first before you go on to the document and ask them about that. Or in fact, actually, if you do it the other way around, if you ask them if they've received the document and they say it's come through blank, It gives you a chance to scan it again, send it off while still talking to them. You could deal with your other issues, and a couple of minutes later, 15, 20 minutes later, half an hour, they should see that, and you'll probably still be on the call then anyway. So that's that. So we covered sending complaints in. You can telephone complaint, okay? If you want a copy of that call, okay, if you've not made your own recording, that is, you can ask the CMS for a copy via a subject access request. And if you search my videos, you see there's a video showing you how to do that. But you make a subject access request to the DWP, get a copy of your call. You need to explicitly ask. So a subject access request will normally send you paper records of your CMS account profile. They'll send that through. So you need to actually say, I want my details, plus I want copies of my telephone calls, all copies. And what they'll then do is they'll send you a disc, and you'll be able to play it and listen to your calls. And what an exciting evening you will have listening to them. Actually, I say that lots of people have done that before, and they've discovered issues. They've managed to confirm that they did ask for certain things, and they've managed to confirm that they did ask for certain stuff, and it was promised to them, and it hasn't happened. And of course, if you've got the call, you can say to the complaints examiner when making your complaint that you made a call on this day at this time, and X number of minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the call, you discussed this particular subject, okay? And this is the response you were told would happen, but it didn't happen. So it's very actually quite useful to get your call, because then you can direct them to the precise part that they need to listen to in order to prove what you're saying, okay? And if you can prove what you're saying, you can prove that the process is wrong, or the independent complaints examiner can look at it and go, the process is wrong, they've not followed it correctly, they can give you money, okay? So if they promise you the earth and they don't, and you go to the complaints examiner can look at it and go, well, the call handler promised this, they shouldn't have promised that because it wasn't possible. This was relied upon by the person making the call, and therefore they've been treated unfairly, and therefore, because the process has probably not been followed as a result of that, okay, then they're entitled to a small bit of money. And as I say, typically £25 increments thereafter. So that's basically how the independent complaints examiner works. Obviously, whilst you're doing ICE, whilst you're doing tribunal, you can also go to your MP, and if your MP doesn't work, you can go to the Parliamentary Ombudsman Service. Okay, obviously you can also take your own legal action, but that's pretty expensive. One thing I must warn you about, though, is take action. Okay, so if you're going and making these complaints, okay, don't just assume that CMS will leave it. The chances are there's a very good chance that CMS will still continue the enforcement process. And whilst you're going through these complaints, or think about doing these complaints, they may be doing the enforcement process. Okay, so you've got to get in there early. Okay, try and stop stuff. If it's clear that you're making these complaints, if they've got a record of it because you've sent it on the portal, because you've gone to ICE, okay, that will protect you in the long run. But just bear in mind that just because you've got a complaint with ICE, it doesn't necessarily mean that CMS are going to stop action against you. Okay, these things often run in tandem. That's probably a good summary of how ICE works and all the other aspects to make a complaint. If you liked my video, then please give me a super thanks, give me a thumbs up, okay, and maybe check one of the playlists that you can probably see coming on screen now. So thank you very much. Hope you have a good day, and I hope this CMS journey isn't as painful as it would be for you watching my videos. Thank you very much. I'm Keith. Have a great day. Bye bye.